loan of almost $400 million in 1978 was a lot of money. Big business. When my letter got to Washington, it torpedoed the whole deal. In an instant, it was like a bomb. So it blew up the deal. So it made the business community in Washington furious. They held congressional hearings in the Commerce Committee about the impact of Carter's human rights policies on hurting American business interests in the world, based on my fact that I sent to. I didn't make the decision, but I just provided Washington the fact. The Department of Commerce sent a message around the world asking their officials, people who work for the Department of Commerce around the world, to report back how many millions of dollars in business the Carter human rights policy had cost United States business interests in the United States. And they came up with some enormous numbers of billions of dollars worth of lost business that had been cost. So then they held hearings on this. This really marked the high water mark of the human rights policy under Darien and Mark Schneider. And after that, things became much more difficult because the business community began to put significant pressure on the White House and on the Congress to balance the human rights policies. And it later turned out that the most disappointed people in this were the leaders of the Argentine Navy, who all had visions that they would become millionaires by owning this wonderful factory here in Argentina, which would make these huge turbines, and they would make personally millions of dollars out of this. When news of this came back, I'm told by one of my friends in the Navy, one of my contacts in the Navy, that the Martinez de Hoz at a cabinet meeting said, "Thank God," who was the Minister of Foreign Affairs at that time, said, "Thank God for the American human rights policy. They've saved Argentina from another huge white elephant industry that we cannot afford." So there was a real division inside the government. But Videla is, as the leader of the government, as any leader of a government, has got to be responsive to his constituencies. The Navy was so angry that they lost the deal that they pushed Videla to make a deal with the United States. So following that, Videla met, and I don't have the exact date, in Rome with Vice President Mondale. And they made a deal. The deal was that if the United States, in exchange for the United States approving the loan guarantee to Alice Chalmers, which would allow Alice Chalmers to sell the plant to the Astilleros Argentinos, to allow them to produce the turbines, which they would be bought and put into the Yacyretá Dam to generate the electricity. They would allow the OAS Human Rights Commission to visit Argentina. So that was the deal. So even though it looked as if the impact of the decision not to approve the loan was kind of a business transaction, it really had very significant implications in terms of getting the Navy's approval for the visit of the OAS Human Rights Commission here, and the expectation of that visit led to the cessation of the massive operations, clandestine operations of the military doctrine against terrorists and subversives.